The kettle clicks off at 6:12 a.m. It always does, because I set it to keep warm, before my hands forget the position of the dial. Ginger tea, 2 Tylenol, and the same cracked blue saucer I bought with Helen in '89 at a church rummage sale. My cardiologist says to measure my walking by blocks. I measure by mugs. The first mug means the porch is possible. The second mug, the mailbox. The house on Cedar Loop creaks, like a ship. There's a notch on the banister at knee height where my grandson once carved a letter M. He was 4. He's 15 now, and only texts me when Nike runs a promotion I don't understand. I am 74. My wife has been gone since April 14, 2019. An afternoon of tulips and bad news. And I live among the relics of our careful, neat life. Warranties in shoebox, a yellow Phillips screwdriver with kitchen only written in black marker. The armchair that still remembers Erlene. At 9:07 my son's SUV arrives. You can always tell a conversation's weather from the sound of a closing car door. This one's a storm. Heavy, decisive. Dad, Ethan says, stepping in without wiping his shoes. He is 43 and has a jawline that wins arguments 2 minutes before his mouth opens. My daughter-in-law, Carla, follows, balancing an iced latte and a tablet, the glow reflecting off her new veneers. We have 8:00 appointment at Maple View, she says brightly, like we're going to a matinee. We're touring and doing prelims. Prelims, my son repeats, already moving toward the kitchen. We've talked about this. They have talked. I have listened. That's the difference. Maple View, I say, test driving the syllables. Sounds like cereal. It's not a nursing home, Carla says. It's assisted living, resort-style amenities, activities, a calendar. What's wrong with my calendar? I lift the one on the refrigerator. Helen's handwriting still dares us to make October 12th as special as she once made it. Ethan doesn't sit. It's not safe here. You fell in the driveway last week. In the rain, I answer. I'm old, not made of Teflon. He places a folder on the table with the efficiency of a man who has laid down folders in many kitchens. Refinance folders, enrollment folders, a sleeve of papers between father and son. I see numbers, $6,950 base monthly, $1,200 medication management, $450 continence care, which is a way to make diapers sound like diplomacy. You can afford it, Carla says, swiping the tablet. Your house sold in the neighborhood last month for $612,000. Zilla says yours is comparable. My house is not a Zestimate, I say, and I feel a tremor of something I haven't entertained in months. Irritation's thin, hot edge. Dad, Ethan sighs. You can't live alone. But there are 2 coffee rings set side by side on the table. I have not been alone in 5 years. I have been with Helen's echo. By 9:50, for they pair their pity with a timeline. We leave in 6 minutes, Carla chirps, or we'll miss our slot. I'll come for the tour, I say, but I'm not signing anything. We'll just see, Ethan answers, which in his adulthood has always meant he's already decided. At Maple View, everything is beige and high praise in brochure font. A woman named Sandy opens doors with key cards as if magic were managerial. We're full in memory care, she says, with the same cheer you might use to announce a birthday party is fully booked. But assisted living has immediate availability. We pass a den of televisions and a bowl of green apples too polished to be bitten. There's a piano no one plays, but everyone does. A nurse with kind eyes and a name tag, Maria, LPN, kneels to pick up a medication cup that somehow has rolled under a chair. When she stands, our eyes meet, and she looks down quickly, the way strangers do when a dog limps. Sandy begins a speech about life enrichment. Ethan begins a speech about safety. Carla films the fireplace on her phone for an Instagram story. My attention snags on the whiteboard in the hall where someone has written in squeaky blue. Wednesday bingo, 2 p.m. Jello shooters. The tour ends in an office the size of my old pantry. The administrator has a set of papers already spooled in a clip. All standard, she says, tapping the last page. Signature required. I didn't bring my pen, I say. We have one, she answers. Of course they do. The pen is heavy and gold, a tool you use to sign treaties and betrayals. Dad, Ethan says softly, this is best. I look at my hands, which still know how to replace a flapper valve in a toilet and the exact motion to loosen a stubborn jar lid. These are not hands that sign themselves away. The room is too warm. I'll take them home, I say, and read. They can't leave, the administrator says, smiling with all teeth. Policy. Before the argument takes breath, the nurse from the hall steps in with a stack of forms, and one slips, papers fanning like gulls. As she stoops to gather them, she comes close enough to whisper. Her voice is the hush of a hymn. Sir, she says without looking at me. Check your deed. I blink. What? Her eyes flick toward the administrator and then down to the cup in her hand. Your house, she whispers, more breath than voice. Check your deed before you sign anything. Ethan is talking about how hard it is to see a parent age. Carla is cracking her nails. The administrator keeps smiling. The nurse has already slipped out the door, but she leaves a sentence hanging like a rope. Check your deed. I raise the gold pen, and with every ounce of politeness I can scrape from the old dinner party host I used to be, I set it back down. I'll take the tour, I announce, and I'll take my time. The administrator's smile falters. Ethan's jaw tightens. Carla's phone camera captures nothing of this, because Wi-Fi is spotty in administrative offices and justice is quick, but upload speeds are not. We leave with a brochure and the pen, which somehow ended up in my pocket. In the parking lot, the wind is thin and sharp. You embarrass me, Ethan hisses, which I suppose is true in the same way truth sometimes wears the wrong coat. Son, I say, this is my decision. We have power of attorney, Carla says, placing the tablet against her chest like a shield. We can decide for you. No, I answer, and I hear my voice in my ribs the way you hear a train before you see it. Not for this. I do not drive home. I drive to the county building on 3rd and Jasper, an ugly box of gray concrete where titles live and sometimes die, and I ask for the record of my deed. Before I let you into the clerk's office with me, I will lay on the table the ordinary receipts of my fatherhood, because people think this kind of thing happens in a single sharp moment and not slowly, like a kettle boiling that forgot it's on the stove. February 1st, 2004. A cashier's check to Midwestern State University for $12,812, spring tuition. I remember the counter being sticky and the teller apologizing. I remember Ethan wearing a hoodie that said, Go Hawks, and me pretending not to cry in front of freshmen. June 17, 2010. Wire transfer to Ethan M. Carpenter, $27,000, down payment assistance, just until the bonus in March hits, which turned into May, which turned into never. Not because he is evil, because he is my son. April 21st, 2018, $82,400 paid over 2 years. An MBA for a promotion that arrived with a title and a smaller heart. August 12, 2019, 2 weeks after Helen's funeral. A $15,000 cashier's check to Emma and Ethan for a second wedding they never had. Grief makes you do small kindnesses and big foolishness. October 3rd, 2020, ACH to Bluefront Capital, $60,000, because Ethan's startup partner vanished with the seed money. Later we laughed about the name Bluefront, sounding like a nautical scam. We laughed and the money did not come back. Add to those my small monthly contributions that no one tracked. $2,000 a month for 20 months when he was between positions. $1,100 a month for 9 months when interest only ballooned into interest plus. Health insurance premiums just until enrollment resets. It adds and adds until arithmetic becomes biography. There's also a document most families never see, and those who do pretend is an act of love. A durable power of attorney dated November 7, 2022. I signed it after a dizzy spell and a scared Thanksgiving. The notary was competent. The language, standard. It gave my son the right to manage finances if I could not. It did not give him the right to pack my life into a room with a view and a call button that lights up when you pee. But pieces of paper have a way of becoming crowbars in the wrong hands. The county recorder's office smells like old toner and public duty. A woman at the counter with a bun that is both severe and kind hands me a laminated instruction sheet. Online terminals there, she says. If you have your parcel ID, it's fastest. I have the address, I answer, and a feeling. At Terminal 4, I type my name, Max Carpenter. It returns 12 results because the world has many Maxes and many Carpenters. I refine, Parcel 04108-613. Cedar Loop. There it is. Warranty deed. Recorded 06/22/1993. Max and Helen Carpenter. Joint tenants with rights of survivorship. I can see Helen's name in print, and suddenly she is almost in the room. Then a later entry. Beneficiary deed. Recorded 07/15/2020. My stomach drops. The screen shows a transfer on death instrument naming a beneficiary. Ethan M. Carpenter. That is a tool so your house passes without probate. Helen and I had talked about it with attorney Hannah Lee in 2017. We decided then to include a line. Hannah had insisted. I can see it now in tiny, holy text. Grantor reserves a life estate coupled with the exclusive right to possess, occupy, mortgage, convey, lease, or otherwise transfer the property during grantor's lifetime. Hannah called it a ladybird provision, and we joked about the bird. I did not realize I owed her my piece 3 years later, because that one sentence means, the house is mine to live in or sell as long as I'm breathing. It cannot be disposed of by anyone while I still put the kettle on. There is another entry I don't recognize. A caregiver affidavit, recorded March 9, 2024, notarized by a stranger, stating that daily living assistance is provided by E. Carpenter and spouse in the home of M. Carpenter and that reimbursement for past and ongoing care will be secured by any available assets upon transition to long-term care. It's garbage paper, not a lien, but designed to spook. I print it and laugh because fear and paper are cousins. Would you like certified copies? The clerk asks. And there's something like the nurse's compassion in the question. I nod, and she stamps, and the thunk of the stamp sounds like a gavel in a small, good court. On my way home, I stop at Hannah Lee's office. She's still there, smaller glasses, now, same flat shoes. She reads my stack and shakes her head at the affidavit. Not enforceable, she says. We'll send a letter. What about the power of attorney? I ask. You revoke it, she says, as if I asked about a library book. We draft a new one naming someone you trust. I look at the ceiling. Trust has gone thin in my pantry. My niece, I say finally. Maya, she's a teacher. She brings me soup without telling me how much the soup cost. Hannah drafts, I sign. Revocation of durable power of attorney. New durable power of attorney. Healthcare proxy. HIPAA release. A bouquet of boundaries on letterhead. Before I leave, Hannah touches the beneficiary deed with 2 fingers like a doctor checking a pulse. This line, she says, tapping the ladybird clause. It keeps you home until you say otherwise. At the bank, I change the online credentials Ethan set for convenience. I close a joint account I opened in grief after Helen's funeral. I switch my pension deposit to the credit union on 14th, where Julie still calls me Han. I make a list, and the list is a ladder out of a hole. Freeze utility accounts. Ethan liked to help with online payments. Help is sometimes an empty cup with a straw. Alert the pharmacy. No more deliveries signed by family. Add a ring camera privacy. Yes, but evidence is a kind of prayer too. Schedule a cognitive screening, not because I doubt the kettle, but because a paper that says intact makes judges nod. At home, I pull down the metal file box from the top shelf of the hall closet. Estate HLC. It says in my wife's handwriting. The first time I open it, I cried into envelopes. This time I open it like a mechanic lifts a hood. Behind the living will and the obituary draft that Helen had morbidly typed while she was healthy and put away just in case, I find a notarized promissory note and deed of trust. Recorded 04/27/2018. Lender, Max Carpenter. Borrowers, Ethan and Carla Carpenter. Principal $120,000. Interest 3% simple. Payments of $1,100 due the 1st of each month, late after 15th, with a 90-day default clause. Secured by their home on Lockhart Lane. I had entirely forgotten I had insisted the down payment loan be papered. It had seemed so harsh, so unlike my father instincts, that I tucked it away with a promise to never use it. But here it is, a forgotten line in a song, humming to itself. I check my bank journals. Payments last received, 02/01/2024. It is now June. 90 days past due is a phrase that rides into town with its own horses. I do not stroke my mustache or whisper gotcha. I simply lay the paper beside the beneficiary deed and feel a strange new weather in the house. Not anger, not even forgiveness, competence. On June 17th, at 8:35 p.m., the phone rings. People who have done something foolish always call late. They hope the night will answer instead of you. Dad, Ethan says, voice pitched low. We need to talk. We do. I scheduled your move-in for Tuesday, he says, barreling past the part where I might disagree. I booked the premium unit. $7,450. It's safer. You did not ask, I say. I have power of attorney, he says, as if those words were a key to my front door. He does not know they're a key I have ground down. It's revoked, I answer gently. I hear silence, like a book dropping on carpet. What? He says finally. I met with Hannah Lee, I say. We signed today. Maya is my agent now. We sent you the notice. I picture Carla checking her email and not seeing anything but her reflection in the glass. You can't do that, Ethan says. I already did. He tries another door. At least we need to talk about selling the house. The market? I look at the beneficiary deeds splayed like a patient on my table. We can talk, I say, and I'll tell you no. This is for your own good, he says, which is what church deacons say before they tell you sing too loud. Son, I answer, you try to put me somewhere with Jello shooters. He exhales hard enough to blow out a birthday candle. Fine. Then at least reimburse us for your care. We've been helping. The caregiver affidavit is not a lien, I say, and the words feel good in my mouth, not spite, just fact. You don't get to invoice love and collect against a house you didn't buy. He is quiet, then hard. We'll petition for guardianship. You can file what you like. I hang up before I say something that changes me. I text Maya. We may have a court date. Bring your bright shoes. Judges like a little color in a sad room. Then I pull the promissory note closer and write a letter that is all math and no malice. Notice of default. 30 days to cure. Else, as the document says, the beneficiary may elect to sell the property to satisfy the indebtedness. The sheriff does not knock yet. He will, if I need him. Sometimes justice wears a brown uniform and scuffed boots. Court is a ceremony that pretends it isn't. A flag, a crest, a bailiff's call to order, all in a room the size of a cafeteria. July 2 ND, 10:00 a.m., Department F. The judge is the age of my son, which is an indignity I file on the time's mischief. Ethan and Carla sit with a lawyer so young as Ty is still learning to be straight. They have filed a petition alleging cognitive decline and self-neglect. They bring photographs of my cracked back steps and a list of mislaid items. My keys hide. They always have. They present a letter from a Dr. Holcomb I saw once for 15 minutes in a clinic that smelled like mint and billing. The letter uses words like likely and suggests. These words are cowardly, but sometimes they win. My table is Hannah Lee and Maya with orange flats and a folder of records. And Maria, LPN from Maple View, sits in the second row in her good blouse. I did not ask her to come. Compassion can read a calendar. The judge calls the case. Ethan's lawyer speaks as if he loves me. For 5 minutes of his boyfriend voice. I check my pulse to make sure I'm not in a better place. He points at me when he says vulnerable adult, and my wrists itch. Hannah stands. Her voice has the steel of a ruler. Straight edges, inches counted. She directs the court to exhibit my cognitive screen from June 20th, scored on a 30-point scale. 27/30ths, she says. Intact. Not perfect, who among us is, but intact. The judge half smiles. Exhibit B. The revocation of the November 7, 2022 power of attorney, notarized, delivered, received. Exhibit C. The beneficiary deed with the ladybird clause that reads like a lighthouse. Hannah reads it aloud. The words fill the room with a sound that makes even the court reporter look up. Grantor reserves a life estate, the exclusive right to possess, occupy, mortgage, convey, or otherwise transfer the property during Grantor's lifetime. In short, Your Honor, Hannah says, no one can sign this man's home away but this man. Then she calls Maria. The young lawyer objects. On what grounds? On the grounds that truth is photogenic and his case is not. Overruled. The judge says, bored and benevolent. Maria walks to the stand like someone who is good at walking. She takes the oath with hands that have steadied 1,000 trembling arms. She tells a story of the day, the beige hall, the clipboard, the pressure. She does not dramatize. She merely places the facts on the table like bowls of fruit. "And did you say anything to Mr. Carpenter?" Hannah asks. "I did," Maria says, and she glances at me and then back at the judge. "I told him to check his deed." "Why?" "Because families sometimes don't understand the difference between love and ownership," she says. And you can hear the room get quiet, a sound you don't hear in rooms where microphones live. When it is my turn, I stand slowly and tell the judge my schedule. Ginger tea, 2 Tylenol, the mail. I recite my mortgage payment dates by heart from 1993 to 2008 when I paid the last dollar on this house. I list in a voice that shakes but does not fall the sums I've sent my son, with dates that make the bailiff's eyebrows rise. I admit my faults. I admit my stubbornness. I say the word grief once and let it sit like a small animal on the desk. The judge leans forward, chin in hand. Then he asks me the question courts always ask at the end of the expensive stuff, the question that has broken men and saved them. "Mr. Carpenter, do you know what day it is?" "Tuesday," I answer. "July 2nd. You keep it cold in here so we don't get sleepy." There's laughter in a room where humor usually dies. The judge smiles, lightly rare. He denies the petition. He reads into the record words that feel like water after salt. No finding of incapacity. Petitioners admonished that assisting is not deciding. No further action. I do not pump my fist. I am not 13 at a basketball game, but I nod to Maria, and she nods back, and something in my chest sets down a heavy bag. We are almost out the doors when a deputy with a stack of envelopes approaches Ethan. "Mr. Carpenter?" he asks. "Service." He hands him a notice of default and election to sell under deed of trust for a home on Lockhart Lane. I did not plan the timing. The clock planned it. 90 days past due plus 30 days to cure equals a courthouse in July. "Dad," Ethan says, the word ragged, as if it has scraped its knees. I do not gloat. The judge is still within earshot. "You have 30 days, I say softly. "Pay what you promised." And the wheel stops. "Don't," and the wheel rolls. He opens his mouth, then closes it with the dignity of a man who finally understands that adults sign things that mean things. In August, I fixed the back steps for $112 in lumber and the day's sweat of a 74-year-old who still knows a level from a lie. I install a motion light, so I do not trip on raccoons. I make a peach cobbler that would make Helen's smile appear on a wall if love could project itself like a movie. Maya comes on Saturdays with a bag of groceries and pours the milk into a glass cup because she knows I like to see the line. We sit on the porch and watch the delivery drivers misread numbers. We talk about nothing and everything. Her students' essays, the way a thunderstorm moves like gossip. I keep all the paperwork in a new folder, red labeled Max, Q3, 2024. In it are things the young don't respect. Paid bills, a list of passwords dated and updated. A letter to myself that says you are allowed to stay. You are allowed to ask for help that feels like help, not a transfer of power. I also keep a letter Ethan wrote. I found it in my mailbox on August 9th. In his handwriting, I used to see on construction paper turkeys. "Dad, I'm sorry. I thought I was doing the right thing. We're current with the note. Can we start again?" There is no check for past due interest because apologies rarely include ledger lines. Still, the payment posted on August 1st. Then September 1st. Adults sign things and pay them, or they are not adults. We begin again, not by hugging in a kitchen like a commercial, but by changing the subject when it hurts too much and handing each other wrenches when something needs tightening. I go back to Mapleview once, this time at 4:30 p.m., when the halls smell like meatloaf. I bring Maria a plant with fat leaves that looks hard to kill. "Thank you," I say. She shrugs. "We're supposed to care," she says. Sometimes that means saying be careful. She looks at my hands as if counting their veins. "You look better," she adds. And I leave the plant on a windowsill where it has a view of a parking lot and a sky that makes up for it. October 12th arrives. Helen's date on the calendar. I take a thermos to the cemetery and sit on the flat bench that remembers her name. We did okay, I tell the grass. Not perfect, but the house is loud again. The wind does not answer, but the birch tree rattles like applause. On my way home, I stop at the hardware store and buy a packet of brass numbers, a 7, a 4, and a C. I set them by the door with the screws. The old ones have dulled. New numbers make a house feel awake. I put them up slowly, checking level, marking pilot holes with a pencil. When I press the last screw in, my wrist aches, the pleasant ache of a decision you made with your hands. Ethan pulls up as I step back. He looks at the numbers and then at me. I like the new ones, he says. Me too, I answer. He clears his throat. I read the deed, he says. So did I. The line, he says, and he doesn't have to finish. We both know which line turned out to be the little bolt that kept the whole wheel from popping off on the highway. Grantor reserves a life estate. I thought power of attorney was ownership, he says, shame pulling his voice down a half step. Assistance is not control, I say. You help me with the internet, and I let you help me too much with the rest. He swallows. I was scared, he admits. Me too, I say. And it is the first truce we sign without paper. We go inside because the kettle has a schedule and dignity likes to be poured. At 6:12 p.m., the same click, the same hiss. I stir honey into 2 mugs and put the blue saucer between us. He watches my hands and does not try to take the spoon. When he reaches for the mug, I notice a callus at the base of his ring finger. A small fact, a small promise. We drink in the kitchen where penitent sons and old men make treaties their lawyers will never see. The house holds us both the way a good chair does. Upright, not unyielding. A week later, I meet with Hanley and sign a new one that reflects a life lived sharper. I leave the house to Maya with a provision that says Ethan and I will drink tea on the porch as long as we can. I set aside $25,000 for Maple View's staff holiday fund because kindness should have a line item. I write a 1-page letter to my family and tape it to my red folder. If you're reading this, it means I am gone or asleep longer than a nap. Please water the plant in the kitchen. Please forgive quickly. Please read the deed before you move a single box. I take the letter to the fridge and slide a magnet over the corner. The magnet is in the shape of a cardinal Helen bought in a gift shop when grief was still a rumor. At 9:07 a.m., an SUV door closes across the street. It sounds like weather, but the forecast has changed. I do one last small repair just because it is a good way to end a story. I tighten the hinge on the cabinet above the stove where the salt lives. The screw bites into the wood and holds. The hinge is a simple hardware thing, a pivot that lets a door open and close without drifting, a joint that keeps everything from sagging with time. I wipe my hands on a towel, look around my kitchen, and smile at the quiet that isn't empty. It's mine. The phone rings once, twice. Maria's name appears on the screen. I answer. Sir, she says, her voice the same steady hush it was in that beige office. I just want to check in. I'm home, I tell her. I know, she says. I drove by once for the plant. Thank you for telling me to check. You're welcome, she says. Sometimes the only thing keeping something safe is a single line no one reads, or a person who reads it to you. I say. She laughs. Take care of your house, she adds. I will, I promise. And I do, because it has taken me a lifetime to learn that a house is not drywall and shingles, not Zillow estimates and signatures and gold pens. It is a deed with your name on it, and a line that says you stay until you say otherwise. It is a kitchen where the kettle clicks on schedule and where you pour what's hot and sweet for a son who is learning where help ends and respect begins. I hang up. I watch the light move across the floor. I touch the new brass 74C on the door as I pass, and I leave the pen in the drawer where it belongs.